Good afternoon, everybody. Today, we'll be presenting to you our BACC ABSS project. Our group consists of Shafara, Joshua, Ziyang, and myself, Wayne. Now, what will we be presenting to you today? Firstly, is the source documents, which will be translated into journal entries. Next up, the accounting concepts that were used in this project. After that, it will be the usefulness of ABSS, which were held in the accounting process. Last but not least, improvements to the ABSS software that could be improved in the future. With that, I will then pass the time on to Ziyang to talk about the source documents.
Thank you, Wayne. So in the first source document, we debited 40,000 cash and credited 40,000 bank loan. As from the source document, we can see that Face took a bank loan from the bank for 40,000. Thus, the business will have to increase 40,000 in cash and increase 40,000 that is owed to the bank. Moving on to the second source document, we can see from the source document that the inventories is sold for 30,000 and cost 21,000. And under the payment, there's a 30 days limit, which goes on to show that it is an account receivable, as McHale will be paying in the future. We would have to record an increase in accounts receivable McHale by 30,000. Sales revenue increased also by 30,000. However, a decrease in inventory by 21,000 as we are selling the inventories away. However, for the cost of sale would have to increase by 21,000 as it is an expense of selling the inventories. For the next source document, it is similar to the previous source document. However, for this, it is sold for cash rather than sold for receivables. As you can see within the source document, there's a cash sales slip. In the source, it is mentioned that the inventory was sold for 30,000 and the price to purchase the inventory was 18,000. So we will have to increase the inventories. We have to increase the cash by 30,000 and sales revenue by 30,000. You will have to also decrease the inventory by 18,000 and the cost of sale would have to increase by 18,000. Moving on to our last source document. The company decided to pay its employee the salaries. For the first employee 4,000, second employee 5,000, and the last employee 2,000. We have to sum it all up and record it under wages and salaries. So we will have to decrease the cash as we pay the employees by 11,000 and increase the expenses of hiring the workers. Under wages and salaries, we have to increase by 11,000. Yeah. With that, I'll be passing my time on to Joshua, which will be explaining the accounting concepts used in the project.
Okay, so now I'll be taking you through the 4 different accounting concepts that we have come up with today. First off, I'll be taking you through the accounting period concept. So this is basically when the company splits up the business life into equal intervals, in this case being 12 months in each interval. And it begins on 1st April and ends on the 31st of March every single year. And another reason on why this is a accounting period concept is because there are financial statements provided at the end of each year, like the financial position and profit and loss. And a good example of this is basically the financial position, which can be seen on the slide in front here. Okay, so with that, now I'll be taking you through the remaining 3 concepts. I'll be taking you through the going concern concept first, and this is basically when the company assumes it is going to carry on its business in the long run. And this can be proven by the company acknowledging some expenses like prepayments. And what prepayments is basically when the company pays for a service in advance to use in the future. And this can be seen in the company and as they paid for prepaid services which they use for the few months ahead. This shows that they are going to carry out the business in the long run, because if they were not going to use these services in the next few months, they would not make these types of transactions at all. So next, I'll be moving on to the historical cost concept. It What this is it basically states that the business must record transactions in terms of the actual amount at which they occurred it at. Thus, we applied this concept, and this is evident when we recorded the asset in our books. We recorded the amount which was stated on the source document using the original cost of the asset when acquired by the company. This can be seen in the slides beforehand where Ziyang mentioned about it in the fourth document, where the company incurred a total of $11,000 for wages and salaries expense, and we recorded this amount into the books, not any other amount. Lastly, I'll be covering the monetary concept. It states that a business should only record business transactions if it can be measured in monetary terms. Therefore, we use the concept and only recorded all our business transactions that can be expressed in monetary terms, and we did not record any other non-financial transactions in our books for this project. Some good examples of non-financial transactions are things such as customer loyalty or even quality of workforce. So with that, I've come to the end of the accounting concepts, and I'll be passing on the time to Wayne, who will be taking you through the usefulness of the ABSS software.
Thank you, Joshua. Next up, we will now move on to the usefulness of ABSS. Firstly, the ABSS software will compute the statement of financial position for the user. Within just a few clicks, the statement of financial position report will be generated by the software, and therefore, there's actually no need for the user to manually compute out the statement of profit and loss before then closing the retained earnings to the statement of financial position. And therefore, it reduces the chances of human error that could be made if this was done manually. Next up, there is a tab that shows how much each journal entry is out of balance by. By right, the total debited amount must equal to credited amount for each journal entry. If it is not equal to each other, then the out of balance tab will show a value that it is out of balance by. If there is a value there, the user will now know that there is something wrong with the journal entry and will proceed to try and make changes to it. Therefore, it helps the user to rectify any error that he could be made, maybe due to his own carelessness while making the journal entries. And then therefore, the final answers will then be prevented from being overstated or understated. Next up, I will hand over the time now to Shafara to go through the improvements that could be made to ABSS software.
Thank you, Wayne. So I'll be moving on to the ABSS improvement. The first ABSS improvement is to set the account using a proper name. For example, saving the account as accounts payable and prepaid insurance. It is important that the accounts are saved using proper name as accounting names are set to various categories to keep track of the business finances and to reflect what happened in an organized and consistent manner. Hence, ABSS software can change their layout and make recording journals easier and more accessible. I'll be moving on to the second improvement. The second improvement is to add a save button to the company file in order to save the work immediately and also avoid us losing our data. Since there is no save button in the ABSS software, it may result us in losing our data, and also information is not properly backed up, which could result us in loss of financial data. By having an auto-saving function, we are able to save up more time and at the same time continue with our own work. This will bring convenience when working with the software. In conclusion, learning how to use the ABSS accounting software has allowed us to apply relevant knowledge we learned in lesson. We were able to demonstrate what we learned in real-life example of recording it into the software. This allowed us to see that accounting is not about recording into journals, but also analyzing the profit and loss of a company. We realized that it's not easy to record the business transaction manually, and thankfully for the ABSS accounting software, it saved us a lot of time. We have reached the end of our presentation. Thank you.